there's been quite a bit of noise recently about proposals and statements made by public figures about the introduction of Sharia law in the UK. The immediate knee-jerk reaction to this, of course, is that we already have a legal system, and one of the fundamental principles behind a fair and just legal system is that it should apply equally to everyone. And although this doesn't always happen in practice, the principle is that nobody is above the law. There's this expectation that anybody in the UK will be subjected to the same laws, regardless of their social status or gender, race, and so on. This expectation of fair and equal treatment. And that's the worry about introducing a separate legal system, that it violates this equal treatment. But I wonder whether or not this view is somewhat missing a point. The point being that Sharia law and the like are already here in the UK. We already have people in this country living by the rules set in their scripture or by their ideology. We have Sharia mortgages offered by banks. Although I've got to say that the whole Sharia mortgage concept strikes me as being a rather cynical way of slithering around the letter of the law and consequently completely missing the spirit of the law. But anyway, we have Sharia mortgages. But the important thing about them is that they are optional. You can have a Sharia mortgage if you want one, or a standard mortgage if you don't. I mean, that's assuming you can find a bank to lend you the money in the first place. So my question is, if somebody wants to live their life according to Sharia law, surely in a free country they should be allowed to do this. The only caveat is that the law of the land takes precedence over the Sharia law. There are already plenty of people who live their lives by a set of rules that goes beyond the restrictions of the legal system. Gay Christians who believe that homosexuality is a sin are allowed to deny their sexual orientation if they wish, but being gay is not a crime in the UK, and fortunately for these aforementioned Christians, neither is being miserable and hating yourself for no good reason. Vegetarians and vegans can avoid eating meat or even the use of all animal products if they wish, but eating meat and wearing leather shoes are not against the law in the UK. So if somebody wants to live their life in accordance with what's written in their holy book, I can't see a problem with that. The only caveat is that they obey the law of the land first, and that participation in any additional rule set must be optional. They can't start putting this nonsense on the statute books. So that means that Sharia law cannot apply to criminal matters, only civil matters. And that's because not every civil dispute ends up in legal action. Sometimes these can go to arbitration and result in a solution to which all parties are agreeable, rather than having it enforced externally by the legal machinery of the state. So I don't see why a Sharia court couldn't operate this way too. It had no legal status other than any contracted agreement that came out at the end. Civil law would still be there for anybody who wants it. This Sharia court, so to speak, would be subject to the law of the land, so it could not condone any kind of criminal act or anything that violates a person's rights. It wouldn't be allowed to imprison people or subject them to corporal or capital punishment. And where there's an existing law of the land, that law would take precedence. Where there's an additional rule in Sharia law, the adherence to that law and being subject to any punishment for violation of that law would be both voluntary and must not violate any existing secular state law. And I'm sure that this already happens, and I can't see why there's any reason that it shouldn't happen, that people shouldn't be allowed to live their lives the way that they want to. Okay, although we already have a legal system that applies to all of us, if Muslims or any other ideological group wants to apply additional restrictions to themselves, to how they live their lives, as long as they don't break the existing laws of the land or expect everyone else to be subject to these additional laws, and certainly they don't expect anyone else to pay for the processes involved with the maintenance and operation of those additional laws, why would any of the rest of us care?